Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome to the New Story podcast with me, your host, Rebecca Conran. I'm a certified trauma-informed holistic health coach, astrologer, and energy healer, and a published writer on the subject of spirituality and the esoteric arts. And the New Story podcast is where we explore what's going on in the current energy through astrology reports, but also I get to talk to practitioners about different methods they're using, and it's people that I know or that I've interacted with, and I feel like they have something lovely to share with you. And today I've got Ruth Semple, who's a holistic therapist, ritualist, and space holder here in Bristol in the UK. And she's currently finishing up her training to become a Celtic shamanic practitioner, but she found a lot of healing through shamanic drumming, and now she gathers women into drum circles where they can find their way back to themselves as she did. And I actually got to experience one of these circles with Ruth, and welcome, Ruth.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's interesting really because I love the drum so much. I always wanted to drum and I'm a musician, and a couple of years ago I got a djembe and I took some African drum lessons. But primarily, you don't always see a lot of women being encouraged to drum. It always seems more like a I feel like it's always been historically sort of sent to us as a male-oriented activity, but it was fantastic. When I went to Ruth's gathering, just for the listeners, it was in the woods and just about 35 women, was it? Just banging drums
Yeah.
and joyfully dancing and just convening with nature in the middle of the day with a fire, and it was just lovely release, but also integration and space holding. It was an incredible experience. And Ruth, I'm wondering, like, tell me a little bit about those first experiences you had. What drew you to the drum, and then into a practice of shamanic drumming?
It was literally like the universe grabbed me and shook me and said, "This is your medicine."
Yeah.
It was really profound. So I've got fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, complex trauma, PTSD, all of it, right? Like many of us. And about it was nearly 7 years ago where my body had one massive big burnout. I'd already suffered multiple burnouts, but my body just really broke. I couldn't move, I couldn't wash myself, I couldn't dress, I couldn't put my shoes on to get out of the house. I'd have to rely on other people to come and put my shoes on so I could get out for my little walk because I made sure that I moved every day.
Yeah.
But in that period, I was working with my bodywork therapist and she was talking about drumming. So I just went and got a drum because I've got a musical background as well, but I'd never done any percussion. And I got the drum and I was totally blown away. I would drum for 10 minutes, waking up with a with pain at about a level 10, and I'd drum for 10 minutes and I would take it down to a 3.
Wow.
And I'm somebody who's done so much. My diet is great. I'm vegan, whole foods, exercise, the whole approach. I've done it all, osteo, acupuncture, and all of those are great. But there was just something about the drum and how I took to it.
Yeah.
Then I took a year off work and I immersed myself in drumming and sound. And I intuitively worked with the drum to heal. Not only did it bring my pain levels down, but it helped me go beneath the masks, the societal layers that we all carry, the trauma from our lives, the trauma from our ancestors. And it connected me to this strength, to this power, to my innate capacity to heal. And I
Yeah.
just went on this massive journey for a year with the drum. So it was very much a calling
Yeah.
It wasn't like I woke up someday and thought, yeah, I'm going to become a space holder and a I'm going to hold women. No, it was not like that. It's been a real, what's the word? Heroine's journey. If
Yeah.
that,
Yeah.
yeah.
I often hear people talk about like, modalities that they want to get into, and it's very much in the cognitive head that they're thinking about things. And my advice is always, you need to teach what works for you. So that needs to come through an embodied way. Like when you actually teach something that's had a profound impact on you, you can look at someone and say, this works, not I think this might work, and it's just a different experience. And that's why there are so many fantastic practitioners around so many different modalities that it really is such an intuitive process to go and work with people.
Absolutely. Completely
Yeah,
agree. Yeah. And it's
yeah,
that magnetism, isn't it? People feel that medicine because you've walked in their shoes. Like
yeah,
you can't, like, that's just the most potent medicine there is, I think.
yeah. And that's why Ruth circles are so held and so warm and wonderful. And for the listeners out there, like these are just a gamut of ages of women. I mean, probably some in their 20s were there, but the majority, I'd say, were probably middle-aged to all the way up to maybe 70, 75. Would you say? Yeah, maybe
Oh,
older. I mean, they
yeah,
look great, so who knows?
no, I think the oldest woman who comes to my drum circles is in her mid 80s.
Yeah. And everybody just joining in, just seeing women in their 70s like dancing around a fire, just in this really like primal and earthy way, just this really feminine, earthy way of just, when you feel a rhythm and your body just,
Mm,
it's just got
mm,
to kind of sway or move to it. And just seeing that, and seeing the pulsating of the group together, like
mm.
creating a heartbeat together. It really was just such a wonderful experience. And I think more and more we need to be talking about how women can gather and get this kind of
Yeah,
strength in us through our group uh, connection.
absolutely. And when women come to my drum circles for the first time, many of them after say, I hear this comment at nearly every circle in their own words. They'll say something like, I feel like I've done this 1,000 times.
Hmm.
Or this feels so familiar. Just something happened, and I just, they can't quite their mind hasn't caught up with what their body is remembering,
Yeah,
because I believe that it is in our DNA that women were the drummers,
yeah,
actually. And this is how, you know the story of when you go to the shaman or the medicine woman and they'll say, when did you last dance? When did you last drum? When did you last sing?
yeah,
Because that's what works and that has worked for millennia, and we've lost connection to that. So what's happening in Bristol with women, I really feel women are coming home to the drum.
yeah,
I mean, when I first started circles a few years ago, I had 3 women. Now I'm doing 3 drum circles a month
yeah.
with 30 plus women.
All full. Hard to get a ticket sometimes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's really beautiful to see this happening, to see this. It's nearly like a revolution. One of the women in my circle, she's like, Ruth, it's like some drumming revolution for women is happening in Bristol. And I'm like, yeah,
yeah,
I think so too. Yeah.
yeah. And to those at home, I think it does start with just like you can definitely find a circle to join, but also just getting a drum. And like my neighbor who lived next door to me, she's moved since, but she was much older than me, and she's probably 20 years older than me, and she had a drum, and I was always hearing her drum. And I was like, I'm gonna get a drum because I just used to hear her like for an hour just hitting her drums. And so I got the djembe, and then I would just play along to music. I would put a song on, that I loved, and I would just like drum along to it. in my own home, and then I went and did some classes and stuff. But for those listening, like you can also start whenever by just getting a drum if you feel called to it, and having a bang on it.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I think you're touching on something that a lot of women who come to my circles first feel. They think, oh, I'm not musical enough, or I've never drummed before. I don't know what to do. There is a really, what's the word, a crossing of a threshold.
Yeah.
And, and I can feel the nervousness in women who are first timers. But boy, after a few minutes of drumming, does that go?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we it's in us. We all know how to do it. When you think about babies and how they just know how to dance to
Yeah.
beat, like we just have that rhythm.
Yeah.
So for me, it is not about learning a new technique. It's not about learning drum rhythms. It's really about a remembering, and we all have it in us.
Yeah, and bringing it into sensory body and not something that it's like, oh, my mind
Yeah.
has to figure out how to do this. It's like, now your body will just show you. You already know how to do it. You've just got to get in that flow
Yeah.
state. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then at my circle, sometimes well, often we do the intuitive chanting because
Yeah.
we do singing without any words because the last thing I want to do is bring a song in, teach it after we've gone into our bodies. It's like, no, we've got these incredible voices and sounds. Let's just sign together and something really powerful happens after the drumming when we do that. It's
Yeah.
hard to put into words.
Yeah.
It's the synchronization I think you were talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm,
And I think that really shows you, and that's a question I wanted to talk about, is like the role of rhythm and drumming in building connection and community among
mm,
women today. But there is something that happens where, it's like when like the listeners might have gone to a yoga class and they might have ohmed 3 times, and it's sort of like, on that third ohm or whatever, where you kind of sink, you lock in, and there's something really like, oh, this is like I'm tapping into some sort of oneness
yeah,
consciousness here. And
yeah.
so that's that, it's like that, but more amplified and obviously more prolonged
Mm.
unification. But what's your thoughts on, the role of this in our society today?
It's so important. It's essential. I mean, through no fault of our own, we've been cut off from our bodies. We
Yeah.
live in such a heady world, in such a linear world, in a world where we've got to be buttoned up and say the right things, do the right things.
Yeah.
Don't express how you really feel because you just carry on. It's all that. There isn't really a space for women just to come to be themselves,
Mm.
to make noise, to do to express, to get into the animal body
Yeah.
and express. And I think when women come along and they experience it, they're just like, wow, I didn't know I could make this much noise and it would be okay.
Yeah. But when
Yeah.
you go out into the woods and you're making some noise, it's not like a racket. Do you know what I mean? It's not like
Yeah.
it's not uh it's not like everyone's out there just primal screaming.
Yeah.
It's very much like it's harmonious. It feels natural. Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think this comes back to one of your points that you made at the start, the difference between, well, women's circles and mixed circles.
Yeah.
The difference is night and day because when we're singing and sounding or drumming, we are listening to each other. We are supporting each other. So somebody
Yes.
might step forward for a bit and do their little thing, and then they step back and something it inspires something else in somebody else, and so on. Whereas any mixed drum circle I've been to, oh my gosh, the
Ruth, I
competitiveness.
totally get it. I totally get it. It's the cooperation, isn't it? Like women naturally we cooperate. And
Yeah,
what I found in the circles where I might be drumming with men is that sometimes a man will try and take over, or it'll be like, look what I can do,
yeah,
and I don't want to just stereotype there. There's a lot of intuitive men, I'm sure, that can cooperate. But there is something different when it's all women because it is just like this alignment happens and there's never like everyone is actually trying to work towards one sound, so it
Abs
just feels more fluid.
Absolutely. And the thing that always amazes me, that I'm always humbled by, is how quickly and easily that happens with
Yeah.
minimal instruction.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
you've been to my circle, you know that I don't do much talking,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
But
that always just humbles me. Yeah.
I think this is something I've really been thinking about a lot lately and talking to people about is, just that the role of actually in person held space. Like held space is, we think that it's something cognitive that we're gonna talk, and maybe that's part of it is like discussion and sharing. But I was doing some readings recently, and I normally work remotely, but I was doing some readings in person, and every woman that was coming into the space, as soon as they sat down, they would just look me in the eye and they would just start to cry, and I was
Mm.
like, it's like that relief of like, like I can just share, I'm safe to just feel, and the presence is there, so you feel seen, And I was like, this is so important. This is really so important in this tech age for us to actually just go to held spaces, and that you don't need to have a lot of direction within a held space. The energy will work itself out naturally.
Absolutely. And each woman brings their own medicine, which in
Yeah.
turn gives other women permission to do what it is, to sing, to dance, to shake,
Yeah.
whatever it is. It's so beautiful. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I think like especially because I've got a history coming from New York City, and um that's where I was for many, many years before I moved back to the UK. And just experiencing some of the spirituality there. And obviously, like big ups to the youth for like keeping spirituality going in a lot of areas, and keeping practices going. But there is something to be said when you surround yourself with elders too. It's so important for women to be around elders and not just people who are their same age or younger than them, that we need to anchor into not even like the advice of it, but just the embodiment of lived experience. It is something really profound, I think, for us that is very supportive.
Absolutely. And that's what I love about the drum. The drum connects everyone, no matter what age, what
Yeah,
background. And
yeah,
I've had that comment at some of my events. I was doing a group shamanic drum journey, and one woman was like, "Wow, Ruth, you get people from all sorts of different backgrounds, not just from the spiritual community."
yeah,
And that's something that's so important to me because I want to reach everyone. I feel that the drum is our birthright.
yeah.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's really lovely to see that.
What do you think most people misunderstand most about drum circles, or the women that lead them, or participation in it?
That's a really good question. I think I think a lot of people might feel that it's really fluffy. It's quite, a bit fluffy, a bit woo-woo.
Okay.
Um, but actually, really deep work is happening. And
Yeah.
that's one of the things that a lot of women are surprised by after their first time. They think, oh, they were just coming along to drum. They didn't realize it was going to touch them so deep that they were going to be able to feel the grief
Yeah.
and for it to be witnessed and for it to move through them and then for there to be space for the joy to come in.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, a lot of women will say it's like therapy, it's better than therapy.
Yeah.
That's why they come.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and so I think there's a perception that it's performative
Yes.
when it's the complete opposite of performative. It's like
Yes.
anything goes. You can feel your grief, you can cry, you can rage, you
Yeah.
can do whatever it is you need to do. There's no script, there's no rote. But I think people's perceptions are quite the opposite, actually.
That's a really good point, really, because I think they're probably like when I think back to things that you might be shown in like the 90s or 80s of like, women's groups and things like that. I think that it can feel like there is a perception of like the aesthetic of what's woo-woo or whatever, that it
Mm.
is it can be performative or corny or whatever. And some of them might be performative. And I think that's a really good window into whether it's a held space or not. I think a space that feels performative isn't being held properly. And you might have a lot of like trauma dumping happening there, or just like, people sort of running the show with their chaos and things like that. And I definitely know that exists as well. So I think that it's finding a space that feels, or a person that feels like they hold a calm, strong space, and then it seems to just be a lovely experience. Like I totally get that feeling of people going into your circles and feeling like it was a therapeutic experience. But for the listener, no one's there sharing about all the pain in their life, and
Mm.
no one's there wailing and gnashing their teeth. And it's not that experience, although they could be there crying or doing whatever. But it's like, it's such a held experience and such a natural experience that you never feel like you almost don't know what everybody else is doing. You're just sort of like in your own presence within the group.
Absolutely. And I think you've touched on some really important points there, because ritual, which I bring into these circles, it has to be intrinsic. It has to come from yourself, from the body. It is not pour over. Whereas a lot of spaces, ceremonies, rituals, it feels very pour over, and you got to know what to do at this time and that time. And oh God, if I do it the wrong way, and it's like, great, I've totally disassociated right now.
Yeah,
You know, you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah,
Whereas the way for me, ritual is like, no, it's your ritual. It comes from your body. It's your journey. And I think that's the difference, isn't it? Because I'm not
yeah.
telling anybody how to be. I'm giving them the space to do what needs to be done. And
Yeah,
often they surprise themselves. They don't realize, they're like, oh, I didn't realize I was so angry, or I didn't realize I had all this grief and it's moved, or I didn't,
yeah.
and to see their faces at the end so much lighter.
Yes, yeah. And I think
Mm.
that really is the power of the drum too, isn't it? Because it's an embodied practice. Like it's a practice that reconnects you to your body and really draws you out of your head. I mean, there are times if you're a new person to drumming or anything, you might go, "Oh, what am I doing? Am I doing this
Mm.
right?" And then if you just keep going in the simplicity of it, eventually you do, it's such a great tool for meditation of getting out of the head actually and just
I,
being present to the body. And I don't know about you, Ruth, but I'm a kinesthetic learner. Like I get knowledge when my body's in motion.
absolutely.
I'm gonna get a lot more intuitive. I'm gonna have flashes of insight if I'm just dancing around than if I'm sitting still.
Oh,
Yeah.
I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
And I have many women that come to my one-to-one practice who are disassociated, and they've had
Mm.
experiences in the spiritual community, with teachers, facilitators, where it's all about getting your thoughts out of your head and sitting still and not moving, and then being shamed for not being able to transcend
Yes.
your emotions. Whereas, in my opinion, meditation is drumming. It's sound, it's singing, it's moving. Because as women, we hold so many different emotional states.
Yeah.
And I think, in my opinion, this is one of the reasons why I think 80% of women have autoimmune diseases, because we are so stuck in this
Sensory, yeah, in the
yeah,
sensory body. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So, yeah, definitely that it's
Yeah.
meditation. Absolutely.
Well, it's been so lovely having you on, Ruth. And if you want to tell people a little bit about the practices that you're offering at the moment, that they could maybe come and work with you on.
Great, thank you. So I do 3 Drummond circles a month in Bristol in different locations. I also do deeper somatic spiritual circles for women around each direction of the wheel where we go on a series. So it's a chance for 8 women to gather to go really deep. And I weave together internal family systems with sound, drum journeying, embodied listening. We go on a very immersive journey. And
Is that your bone deep practice
that's,
then?
yes, bone
Mm.
deep.
Mm.
And I've created a new offer called Bone Rest
Mm.
because that I felt like that was missing from my offering, a space for women just to be with no schedule, nothing to do. So that's launching in July, which is really exciting.
Nice.
And I do one-to-one work in person and online. And a lot of what I'm getting at the moment is ancestral healing work. That's
Oh
one of
yeah.
my specialities. So I'm doing a lot of work with that at the moment, and I work with the body. So it's there's no genealogy stuff, so it's all body based, and that's been really interesting that I've been getting so much of that recently.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's really it has a lot to do with Chiron and its final journey through Aries. So there's a lot of identity wounding that's being healed. So who am I? What does the world want from me? And a lot of that has to do with these wounds of where we've come from, what we've been conditioned to believe our identity is.
Right.
And so needing to kind of, heal that and really claim our lineage. And that's something I've been sharing with my listeners is just the need to go, I'm in charge now. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
what has gone on before is gonna go ahead if it's what I feel is the right thing for the evolutionary moment. Yeah.
It's so interesting because when I first started with the drum, I immediately connected to this ancient medicine woman in my line before the separation, before land was named and owned. And
Mm.
she's one of my main guides, and she's an ally in supporting me to heal my line. And this is the framework I work within with
Yeah.
women because we don't have to do it alone. I think we think we have to do
Yes.
it alone, but we have these amazing allies, these incredible medicine ancestors who want to support us.
Yeah.
So it's a really beautiful thing to do. It's a very
Yeah.
loving, tender thing, isn't it?
Absolutely. But I will also say there are some ancestors that are very disruptive that we need
Oh,
to
yeah.
learn how to work with the ancestors so that we can decide which ones we want to work with and which ones we don't. Because sometimes they'll come in and be like, make more money, have a baby, like
Oh,
all
yeah.
their fears that they might have had in
Yeah.
their life start to come be laid over
Yeah.
you too. So
Yeah.
it's interesting.
Abs-
That's the ancestral work's so important.
so important. But yeah, mine would be like have a fag, have a pint.
Yeah,
Would be
yeah,
Irish.
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And to
Yeah.
the listeners, here in the UK, a fag is a cigarette.
Thanks.
Just a little bit of translation
Yeah. Yeah.
for my American
Yeah.
listeners.
And actually, I know we're running out, but just one thing I was thinking about before we did this, if that's okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking about where I grew up in Northern Ireland. I grew up during the war in the 70s and the 80s, the so-called Troubles. It was a war.
Mm.
And drums in Ireland at that time caused me great fear. They were a symbol of division for me. Like the
Yeah.
big lambeg drum, that big 40 pounder that they played in parades. I
Wow.
couldn't stand it. I could not stand it. The minute I heard it, my nervous system just went up because I think as a child it symbolized division, hatred, violence,
Yeah.
all that stuff. So to come back to the drum and to bring women together, to heal together after
Yeah.
that experience as a child, that really does feel profound.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
that's part of your journey of finding your your purpose. We often have aversions to things that end up being the thing that we
Yes,
excel at, don't we? Yeah.
absolutely. Thank
Well,
you.
it's been so lovely having you on, Ruth. And for everybody listening, please check out the show notes to see starshineroots.org, which is Ruth's website, and her Facebook and Instagram will also be linked on there. If you're in the UK, definitely come. It's worth the trek to Bristol, but definitely book online because you will not get any last minute spaces. They're always sold out. But yeah, it's been lovely having you and thanks for sharing your wisdom.
Thank you. I've really enjoyed this chat. Thanks, Rebecca.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Bye.